How to feel the presence of Jesus when you feel completely alone. There are moments when you call out to Jesus and nothing seems to answer back. No warmth, no peace, no sign that anyone is listening. Just silence. And if you're honest, that silence doesn't feel neutral. It feels heavy. It feels like distance. You start to wonder if something changed, if you did something wrong, if somehow without realizing it you drifted too far, or he stepped away. And the hardest part is this: you still believe, you still want him, you still whisper his name, but it feels like your voice disappears before it reaches him. Let me tell you something most people won't say out loud. Some of the deepest faith is built in moments that feel exactly like this. Not when everything feels alive and full, but when everything feels quiet and uncertain. Because what if the silence you feel isn't proof that Jesus is gone, but proof that he is closer than you expected, just not in the way you were taught to recognize? Stay with me. Don't disconnect now, because what you're feeling has meaning. And before this is over, you're going to see your loneliness in a way you never have before. The silence that feels like distance. Silence has a way of telling stories that aren't true. When nothing happens, your mind starts filling in the gaps. You begin to interpret the quiet as absence. You assume that if Jesus were near, you would feel something clear, something undeniable. But silence is not empty. Silence is just unfamiliar. Think about this. When Elijah expected God, he looked for him in the wind, in the earthquake, in the fire. But God was not there. God came in a gentle whisper. That moment is described in 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 11 to 12. Not loud, not overwhelming, almost easy to miss. And that is where most people lose awareness of his presence. They are trained to expect intensity, so they overlook intimacy. What you call distance may actually be closeness without noise. You are not feeling nothing. You are feeling something you have not yet learned to recognize. And here is where it gets deeper. The silence is not pushing you away. It is pulling you in, teaching you to listen differently, to perceive beyond emotion, to stop depending on what is obvious. Because if his presence only existed in strong feelings, what would happen in the quiet seasons? You would believe he left, but he didn't. What if right now, in this exact moment, the silence you're afraid of is actually filled with him, waiting for you to notice? When your soul stops echoing back. There comes a moment when you pray, and it feels like your own words are the only thing you hear. No return, no response, no sense that anything is moving. It is not just silence anymore. It feels like disconnection. You speak, but nothing echoes back, and that is what unsettles you. Because before, even in small ways, you felt something, a sense of reassurance, a quiet peace, a subtle confirmation. But now, it is as if your soul has gone quiet, like something inside you stopped responding. This is where many begin to panic internally, not always outwardly, but deep inside. You start questioning everything. Is my faith fading? Did I lose something? Did I do something that created this distance? But what if this is not loss? What if this is transition? There is a shift that happens when your faith begins to move from response-based connection to presence-based awareness. Before, you relied on echoes. You spoke and something came back, a feeling, a thought, a comfort. But now, that pattern is being interrupted, not to abandon you, but to take you deeper. Because if your connection with Jesus depends on constant feedback, then your faith is still tied to reaction, not relationship. And real relationship does not always echo. There are moments of quiet between two people who are deeply connected. And that quiet does not mean distance. It means trust has matured beyond constant reassurance. Your soul is not dead. It is being retrained to recognize him without needing immediate response, retrained to stay even when nothing comes back. And here is the truth most people miss. The absence of echo does not mean the absence of presence. It just means you are being invited to stop listening for what returns and start becoming aware of what is already there. And this is where something even deeper begins to surface. A thought that many try to ignore but cannot fully silence. What if this is not just silence? What if he actually let you go? The quiet fear that God has let you go. There is a thought that slips in quietly. It does not shout. It does not announce itself. It just sits there, heavy, persistent, hard to ignore. What if God stepped back? Not completely, not in a dramatic way, but just enough to make you feel like you are no longer as close as you once were. And even if you do not say it out loud, you feel it, that unsettling question that keeps returning when the silence stretches too long. Did I lose him? This fear does something subtle. It changes how you approach him. You become more cautious, more distant. You stop expecting. You start protecting yourself from disappointment because it is easier to believe he is far than to keep reaching and feel nothing again. But listen carefully. This fear does not come from truth. It comes from interpretation. Jesus does not withdraw his presence the way people do. He does not grow tired of you. He does not lose interest. He does not step away because you had a weak moment or because your faith felt unstable. In fact, some of the moments where people felt most abandoned were the moments he was closest in ways they did not understand. Even on the cross, when everything felt like separation, when the words were spoken, my God, why have you forsaken me?" As written in Matthew chapter 27, verse 46, that moment was not abandonment. It was fulfillment. It was purpose unfolding through pain. Feeling abandoned is not the same as being abandoned. And here is where it becomes personal. The fear that he let you go is not evidence of distance. It is the result of trying to measure divine presence with human expectations. You are not being pushed away. You are being held in a way that does not depend on what you feel right now. And if that thought still lingers, if part of you still wonders whether he stepped back, then what comes next will confront something even deeper. Because maybe the real issue is not that he moved. Maybe it is that your faith was built on something that cannot survive silence, when faith loses its feelings. There is a version of faith that feels strong, but only as long as something is felt. Peace, comfort, clarity, warmth. As long as those are present, everything seems alive, but when they disappear, everything starts to collapse. And that is where you are confronted with something most people never notice. Your faith may have been built on feelings more than you realized. Not intentionally, not consciously, but subtly over time, you began to associate God's presence with emotional confirmation. If you felt him, he was near. If you did not, something must be wrong. So when the feelings stop, it does not just feel empty. It feels like everything you trusted is slipping. This is not failure. This is exposure. Exposure of a foundation that was never meant to carry the weight of your relationship with Jesus. Because feelings were never designed to be proof. They were moments of grace, not the structure of your faith. If your connection to him depends on what you feel, then your faith will always rise and fall with your emotions. And emotions are unstable. They shift with circumstances, with thoughts, with exhaustion, with fear. Jesus does not. There is a reason why so many people walk away in seasons like this, not because he left, but because what they were holding on to could not survive the silence. But you are still here. And that matters more than you realize, because this is the moment where your faith is being invited into something deeper, something that does not need constant reassurance to remain steady, a faith that stays even when it feels like there is nothing to hold. And that leads to a question that cannot be avoided. If your feelings are no longer there, then what is left of you? The emptiness that dismantles who you thought you were. When everything feels empty, it does not just affect your emotions, it begins to touch your identity. Who are you when you no longer feel spiritual? Who are you when the passion fades, when the certainty weakens, when the sense of connection is no longer there to define you? This is where emptiness does its deepest work. It starts removing the versions of you that were built on control, on certainty, on always needing to feel grounded and sure. It strips away the idea that you had everything figured out, that you knew how this worked, that you could maintain it. And suddenly, you are left without those layers, not destroyed, but exposed. And exposure feels uncomfortable. It feels like loss, like something is being taken from you. But what if what is being removed was never meant to carry you? There is a kind of faith that is built on knowing what to expect, on understanding the pattern, on feeling stable, because things make sense. But real depth begins when those patterns break, when you no longer know what to expect, but you stay anyway. This emptiness is not erasing you, it is refining you. It is separating who you are from what you felt, from what you controlled, from what you depended on. And what remains is something quieter but stronger, not a version of you that always understands, but a version of you that remains even without understanding. Because Jesus is not building a connection with the version of you that needs constant certainty. He is reaching the part of you that can stay, even when everything familiar disappears. And once that begins, something shifts in a way you did not expect. Because you start to realize, maybe he was never coming to you the way you imagined. Maybe he has been near this entire time, just not in the way you were looking for. How Jesus draws near without being noticed. You were taught to expect him in a certain way. Something strong, something unmistakable, a moment that removes all doubt. But what if that expectation is the very reason you are missing him? Because Jesus does not always arrive through intensity. He often comes through subtlety, not as something that overwhelms you, but as something that settles quietly within you. A thought that interrupts your despair, a calm that makes no logical sense, a pause in your anxiety that you cannot explain, so small that you almost ignore it. And that is the danger. You are looking for something undeniable, while he is moving in ways that require attention, not intensity. This is not new. After his resurrection, he walked with two men on the road, spoke with them, stayed with them, and they did not recognize him. That moment is described in Luke chapter 24, verse 13 to 16. He was there the entire time, present, speaking, near, but unrecognized. Not because he was absent, but because their expectation did not match his approach. And the same can happen to you. You expect something dramatic. He comes gently. You expect noise. He moves in stillness. You expect a feeling that confirms everything. He gives you a presence that requires trust. So you say, I feel nothing. But what if what you are feeling is simply not what you were taught to notice? What if he has been drawing near, quietly, patiently, waiting for you to stop searching for intensity and start recognizing intimacy? And if that is true, then the question is no longer whether he is close. The question is whether you have learned how to hear him, the language of God that requires stillness to hear. You've been trying to hear him in the noise, through constant thoughts, constant searching, constant effort to feel something again. But his voice does not compete with chaos. It waits for stillness, not external silence alone, but internal quiet. Because there is a difference. You can be in a silent room and still feel overwhelmed inside, your mind racing, your emotions unsettled, your attention scattered, and in that state, even if he is speaking, you will not recognize it. Jesus does not force his voice over your thoughts. He does not push through your anxiety. He invites you into a different frequency, one that can only be accessed when you slow down enough to perceive it. Be still and know that I am God. As written in Psalm chapter 46, verse 10, stillness is not emptiness, it is awareness. It is the moment where you stop trying to create an experience and start noticing what is already present. And here is what most people misunderstand. God's language is not always words. It is peace that interrupts fear. It is clarity that arrives without explanation. It is a quiet assurance that does not argue, it settles. But you cannot hear that if you are constantly trying to feel something stronger, because his presence is not always loud, but it is always consistent. So the issue is not that he is not speaking. It is that you have been trained to listen for something else. And this is where it becomes uncomfortable. Because once you realize he is not absent, and that he is speaking in a way you have not been paying attention to, you are faced with something deeper. Why do you still feel like reaching, even when you feel nothing? The tension between feeling abandoned and still reaching out. There is something happening inside you that does not make logical sense. You feel distant, yet you keep reaching. You feel nothing, yet you still call his name. You feel alone, yet something in you refuses to walk away. That tension is not weakness, it is evidence. Because if Jesus were truly absent, your desire for him would fade. Your pursuit would slowly disappear. You would stop caring. But that is not what is happening. You are still here, still searching, still longing, still hoping, even if quietly. And that creates a tension that feels almost unbearable. One part of you says he is not here. Another part of you refuses to accept that. This is not confusion. This is collision. The collision between what you feel and what is actually true. Because your emotions are telling one story, but your spirit is responding to another reality. And your spirit does not respond to emptiness. It responds to presence. Even when your mind doubts, even when your emotions shut down, even when everything feels dry, there is something deeper in you that recognizes him. That is why you cannot let go. That is why you are still listening right now. Because something in you knows, even if you cannot explain it, that you are not as alone as it feels. And this tension you are experiencing is not meant to break you. It is meant to reveal something. That your connection to Jesus is no longer being sustained by feelings, but by something deeper, something quieter, something far more real. And if that is true, then something is happening beneath the surface that you cannot yet see. Something that does not need your awareness to be real. The invisible work happening in your silence. What feels like nothing is not nothing. It just does not look like movement. You expect change to be visible. You expect growth to feel like progress. But the deepest work does not happen where you can measure it. It happens underneath. In the silence, something is being rearranged inside you. Not your circumstances, not your environment, you. Your reactions begin to shift. Your dependence begins to loosen. The way you think, the way you respond, the way you carry weight, it is all being quietly transformed. But because it is not loud, you assume it is not happening. That is the illusion. Jesus does not need your awareness to work in you. He does not need constant confirmation to continue what he started. Even when you feel stuck, even when nothing seems to move, something is being formed that could not exist any other way. Depth. And depth is slow. Depth does not announce itself. It builds in hidden places, in moments where you feel like nothing is changing, when in reality, everything is being restructured. This is why silence feels uncomfortable, because it removes distraction. It forces you to sit with what is real, without escape. And in that space, something begins to take root. not a feeling, not a temporary sense of peace. Something more stable. Something that does not disappear when emotions do. You may not see it yet. You may not feel it yet. But that does not mean it is not there, because the work that matters most is the work you cannot see while it is happening. And this leads to a moment that defines everything, when you have nothing left to feel, nothing left to hold, nothing left to rely on. Will you stay staying when there is nothing to hold on to? There comes a point where everything that once supported you feels gone. No emotion to lean on, no clarity to guide you, no sense of direction to reassure you. And in that moment, you are faced with a choice that defines the depth of your faith. Not whether you understand, not whether you feel, but whether you stay. Because staying when you feel nothing is different. It is not driven by inspiration. It is not sustained by momentum. It is quiet. It is deliberate. It is costly. It is choosing not to walk away, even when walking away would feel easier. This is where faith becomes real. Not the kind that rises in powerful moments, but the kind that remains in silent ones. You are no longer holding on to feelings. You are no longer holding on to certainty. You are simply staying. And that kind of staying changes you. It builds something inside you that cannot be shaken by emotional shifts. It anchors you in something deeper than experience. Because now, your connection with Jesus is no longer based on what you receive. It is based on who He is, and who He is does not change. Even when you feel empty, even when you feel disconnected, even when everything in you questions what is happening, He remains. And by staying, you begin to align yourself with that reality. You begin to discover a strength that does not come from understanding, but from surrender, a strength that says, even here, I will not leave. And this is where everything begins to turn. Because when you reach the point where you no longer need to feel something to stay, you are closer than you have ever been, closer than when everything felt clear, closer than when everything felt alive. And what comes next will reveal something that changes how you see every moment you thought was empty. When what felt empty reveals, it was full all along. There is a moment that does not arrive with noise, no sudden breakthrough, no overwhelming emotion, no dramatic shift, just a quiet realization. You begin to see that what you called emptiness was never empty. It was just unfamiliar. All those moments you thought nothing was happening. Something was holding you, sustaining you, keeping you from breaking in ways you never noticed. You did not feel Him, but you did not fall apart the way you could have. You did not hear Him, but you kept going when you should have given up. You felt alone, but something kept you from completely letting go. That was not you. That was Him. Not distant, not absent, not watching from far away, present in a way that did not depend on your awareness. And now, looking back, you start to understand something that changes everything. He was there, in the silence. He was there when nothing echoed back. He was there when your faith lost its feelings. He was there when you questioned everything, not waiting for you to reach Him, but staying with you when you could not even feel Him. And this is where loneliness loses its power, because you realize you were never walking through that darkness alone. You were walking through it with a presence that did not need to announce itself to be real. And now, even if the feelings do not return immediately, something inside you knows in a way that does not depend on emotion, knows in a way that remains steady. You are not alone. You have never been, and you never will be.